Lots to get through this week. The Hawks may have already found a new head coach, and Justin Schueller joins us to talk about the Bullets and their generational talent.
And we talked to D-Ruck. He's talking Maxi over Tatum. He's lost his mind.
What?
And get a little bit of sneaky peek on the SuperCoach. Nice little tip.
Let's get into it.
This is the Basketball Show with Shane the Hammer Heel. What they gonna say next?
Yes, John Hammer back with you this week, all thanks to Code Sports, Boost Mobile and the Throwback Store. Hammer, how you doing?
Great to have you back, Jojo. You're over your Melbourne Cup hangover?
I knew that's what you thought it would be. That makes me so mad.
I know,
I was
you
bedridden.
weren't. Relax, I know you were crook. Great to have you back regardless.
I'm not sure I believe you. All right, enough of that. Let's get into it. All right, this is our starting five with a little six-man thrown in as well. We'll get to that, but let's kick things off with the Illawarra Hawks. No longer is Jacob Jackomas the coach of the club. Instead, Justin Tatum has taken over as interim. Did you see this coming?
Probably not this soon. I thought they would have given him a little bit more time. But the fact that they were so injury ravaged last year, they only won 3 games or something like that, but then they extended his contract. So they obviously had belief. It's hard to know whether he's an NBL coach because I just think the roster that he put together was pretty poor. I didn't like the balance of their team and the pieces that they had. So I think he's probably more guilty of that than whether he can coach in the NBL and be successful or not.
I'm not sure it's whether it's the pieces that they had and didn't have. For me, it's the fact that Davo Hickey hasn't played this season. Where has he been? He's sitting on the end of the bench, not given.
But who's he going to play instead of? Like at the start, he was criticised for playing too many people. So then you reduce it, and you can't win either way. But who would he play instead of?
Throw him in instead of anyone. JR sometimes, for instance.
But see, that's what I mean. Like, I think if you've got the wrong imports and the combinations and don't have a real marquee Australian, then it makes it difficult. I think the recruiting was wrong with the way this team was put together. But it's going to take years for somebody to be able to build this program.
Is there hope for the team? Can they make some positive strides for the rest of this season?
Oh, there's always hope. But again, I think they have to find the right coach now, put them in as soon as they possibly can, and use the rest of this season to evaluate players. And whether they're keepers or what they have to be able to find, they need to, implement a new culture and go the right direction from the front office down. I'm
just hoping for more Davo Hickey, more AJ Johnson, and also Lockie Ulbrich.
I like Ulbrich, yeah, but how do we know whether AJ Johnson can play, whether he deserves court time? If he deserves
we don't, because he hasn't had an opportunity.
Well, but he has had an opportunity at training, and the coach hasn't seen enough to actually play him. Just because he's an ex-star doesn't mean that automatically he's going to do it. But we might see. Maybe the new coach will give him an opportunity, and we're going to be able to talk about it here, whether he's up to it.
Yeah, I hope that we get the opportunity too. Let's talk about Melbourne United. They surprised a few people, I think, with a win in the throwdown over the weekend. Because of their personnel at the time. No LT, no Ian Clark, and no Delhi.
That is an incredible win. If South East Melbourne can't win that game in that situation, in front of their home crowd with 3 of their best 6 players out, it's hard to see how they could possibly beat them in a series. And, massive congrats to that man. Your boy, Chris Goulding, 35 points, was it? He was incredible. Some of the shots that he made with the other personnel out, you might think it's easier, but it's actually harder with better players missing because there's more attention on him. Have a look at that. That is deep. If you don't mind, what a game from Melbourne United. They are legit. They are the benchmark of the NBL right now. Well done to them for everyone stepping up.
Is this potentially the year that CG gets an MVP nod?
I don't think he'll be MVP, but I don't think he needs to be MVP. I think he's playing such a good role that some games he has a game like that. Other games he's happy just to be able to fit in and not take as many shots. He's not taking away from anyone else. His leadership's improved every year he's been in the NBL. He's been quality.
Yeah, well, they're the ones to beat at the moment, that's for sure. Moving to the NBA now, Duop Reith had his NBA debut with the Blazers on Monday. 11 points, I think it was 11, 3 and 3 in 14 minutes. Yeah. He looked pretty comfortable out there.
And a great situation for him to end up in with a team that's rebuilding. then it doesn't matter throwing him in for this, and not a lot to lose as far as expectation from the team's point of view. And he might find himself as somebody that really builds in this rotation. What a place to end up, and well done for him of being able to, when he got his opportunity, grab it with two hands. 11-3-3 in 14 minutes is some serious balling.
No, really pleased for him. Most definitely. Had a bit of a licence as well. I think he was, 3 of 8 from deep?
We like that.
I love it.
Let it rip.
Love it. Finding his teammates as well offensively, and a couple of blocks thrown in too, so good on him. Dyson Daniels, a new career high, 17 points for the Pels. I think he had 9 and 4 as well. Making the most of what opportunities he's getting offensively.
And you can tell that he's starting to build. He would have taken confidence just being on the bench with the Boomers. He didn't play a lot of court time, but when you get to see the elite and work with the elite day by day at a World Cup and Olympics, on top of his experience playing in the NBA, he's just starting to build. And they've been patient with him, but they've obviously got big belief in where he's going. And hopefully this is just the start of something that builds his confidence and he goes to another level.
Well, CJ McCollum sidelined as well, which is...
Opens up opportunities.
Exactly. Xavier Cook's heading to Japan. That's been confirmed. He's playing with the Chiba Jets over there. I think his first game will be the 30th of November. So he's got a couple of weeks to ease himself into it and get used to the team. Do you like the move?
Double dipping Xavier Cooks, getting paid from Washington. Well done. Now going to get some yen.
He's not going to sit back with his feet up. He wants to play as a competitor.
Yeah, I know, but he's double dipping as well. God love him. Well done. Getting a little bit of yen on the... Is it yen? Anyway, he's good on it. I think that's a great league. I think his athleticism playing in that league and his ability and mobility will be great. He's going to be really successful there. It's a much better move for him going to play in Japan than, say, the Euro League, where it's they're bigger and they expect the outside shooting. They've got all the shooting they want playing in Japan. They want him to play his role, get to the right spots, use his athleticism, like I said, and I think it's a great fit. Yeah,
I look forward to seeing how he goes. We'll have to get him on the show as well and have a chat. Sixth man... The Harden disaster continuing at the Clippers. What more could you possibly add to this, apart from the fact that they've lost 5 games or something since he's been there?
What did I say? The emoji. What did I say about Harden? No D, the team's terrible. He's like minus 70 something while he's on court. It's a disaster. How did anyone think this was going to... And did you hear that spray from the American?
I can't think of the guy's name now, but
I'm just disappointed that wasn't me. Giving that spray, because everything he said, I feel like I've said before. He just articulated a little bit better and did it on a bigger stage. He said, you're not the beard, you're not the system, you're the problem.
You're just upset you didn't go viral.
True. I am. Well done to you.
All right. Let's keep things moving. Yes, this is the Lowdown thanks to Code Sports. Now, we've been discussing the Hawks and the fact that they parted ways with their coach, Jacob Jackomas. Matty, what is the latest on their search for a new gaffer?
Well, they're struggling to find interest, but they do have interest, I can confirm. Judd Flavel, former Phoenix assistant coach, and Breakers assistant coach, now coaching domestically in New Zealand. His manager has reached out to me and confirmed that he's definitely keen on the role at the Illawarra Hawks. They believe he'd be a great culture fit. He's done his time as an assistant and he's ready to be a head coach, and they'll be definitely putting their hat in the mix, which is comforting for the Hawks guys, because a lot of coaches around the edges are just, I'll put it bluntly, not very keen. There's been obviously,
Why is that?
We look at the results on the court in the last 2 years, and they've been, record low for the club. And then off the court, there's no major sponsor. There's a lack of interest from a corporate point of view. Crowds are down, and off the court, they need to fix the club. The club has got a lot of work to do off the court. And as we know in any sport, if your front office is not completely on track, and it's being monitored, I will say it is being monitored closely, then it's hard to have success. So it's a big rebuild. It's not a rebuild, but it's a big job there at the Hawks. The Hawks have said, guys, they want an experienced coach. And my understanding is that's going to be a tough gig. Like, you got Trevor Gleeson, who they've had a phone call to Trevor, but I don't know that he's already being paid by the Raptors. I don't think he's potentially going to go there. Judd's there and he's interested, but he hasn't had a head coach experience.
Mate, they're not getting a Gorgian or a Gleeson. Why would they go there? They're already experienced winning head coaches. It's not going to happen. have they said that they want a coach to come in sooner rather than later? Because I think if it was a Judd Flavel or a younger coach coming in, they need this season to start building and get momentum into next season.
So the early indicators that we're getting is that the Hawks, with Justin Tatum, Jason Tatum's father, that he may stay potentially for the rest of the season, and then they may just rebuild and focus then on get a new coach and then go from there. But Shane,
It's a mistake.
Yeah.
Like they've got an opportunity to be able to assess players. A new coach has to assess players now about who they might want to build with moving forward and start implementing some of the culture changes. We've seen what Justin Schueller's done in a short period of time in Brisbane. It's been fantastic. That's what they have to be able to get now.
Yeah, and there's a belief that they might not do that, but if someone like Judd's putting his hand up and they're willing to go with him, because I don't think they will potentially get an experienced guy, then maybe I tend to agree. I think they bite the bullet now and go. But the bigger picture here, guys, is the Hawks. And they're not going to go anywhere. They're a foundation club, but I will say again, they are being monitored off the court because the package of success on and off the court is not there at the moment. And it needs to improve. And we saw the other day, General Manager Matt Campbell said it's on the players now. Well, I'll say this respectfully, but it's also on you, Matt. It's also on owner Jared Novelli. These guys need to play a role to get the Hawks humming like they were when Gorgon was coach for those 2 years. They made the finals both years. Unfortunately, at the moment, the success is not mirroring that. And they, as a collective, they all need to do a better job.
Plenty more to play out at the Hawks, that's for sure. Now, there's another French next star on the NBL's radar. What can you tell us about Nolan Traore?
Yeah, exciting young prospect. He's only 17. He trained with the Perth Wildcats during the off-season. He's playing domestically over in Paris, in France, and he's averaging, 16 points, 6 assists. His numbers are actually better at the same age than Rayan Rupert was and Ousmane Dang, both young French guys, and obviously the NBL have had such a great connection with French players now as next stars, and he's definitely on the radar. There's hope that he potentially could be the best guard prospect since Tony Parker, which is a wow, big statement to make. But I know that he's definitely on the NBL's radar, and watch this space with the Next Stars program, which has had success, as challenging as it can be sometimes.
Well, they've had success though, bringing a whole lot to the league, but has it had success for the individual teams?
No. It has been mixed. Well, it has been a challenge, and that's fair to say. It has been a challenge in how you manage minutes and that, but I on counter that with, we have seen, individual success, and at the moment we're seeing that with Alex Tui. I think we're seeing that with Alex Sarr. I think we are definitely seeing individual success, but the challenge is how
for the league it's fantastic, but would you be clamouring around as a team to go, I want to be able to commit to a next star, because there hasn't been many that have had an impact to make their team win. For the league it's fantastic.
If I'm Melbourne United and I can have Ariel Hukporti on my roster without having to pay his salary, put my hand up.
That's a good one. I like that. Give me another one. It's
Alex
made
Tui.
their team better. Tui's been great as a young Australian guy.
Sarr.
Fantastic. Well, how many have we had? You've named 3. And
Josh Giddey.
Yeah, I'm not sure as a team it's been as successful. For the league, I think it's fantastic. The initiative has been off the charts, and Sarr has been good. But you would argue his team would want more minutes too. I think he's earned more minutes, but it's hard to be able to juggle these young kids versus a veteran that might play.
And I will just quickly say, Joe, to shout out to Jacob Wiley, this battler put in his column that I noticed his minutes against Perth and they were down, and I didn't necessarily realise that he'd actually really bad bout of gastro. He vomited during the game. On the plane home back from Perth, he actually had to get off the plane because he had dehydration and it was quite dizzy.
Boo, you're a hater. Boo.
So I do, to the bottom of my heart, I do apologise. And he only started training last week on the Thursday and played again last weekend against the Jack Jumpers and had another 3 points. So guilty, but I will shout out in my column as well. And Jacob, mate, all the best, and I hope you play better and you won't be in the hot seat again next week.
Well said. Thanks, Matty.
All good.
5.
Hoops highlights time, thanks to Boost Mobile.
Milton Doyle goes behind the back to find Lee. Beautiful pass again.
Nice little dome there. I like that.
Knew exactly where the help was coming from.
4.
Number 4, former Sydney King Jarrell Martin playing for Galatasaray. Hammer, check this out.
Oh, Gerald Martin.
How good was that? Gets him off his feet. And have a look at the team manager with a little... Did you see that?
He put some feeling in that one.
3.
Lopez, DeRozan gets it back, spins, passes, White, 3, go!
I still don't know how he did that.
A 360 assist, and how he found his man in the corner, eyes in the back of his head. That could be number 1.
2.
Alexander Walker over to Reed, finding Edwards, driving.
Oh, get out the way!
And this is just what he does. Same thing. Gets his man out of the stance, goes to the basket, and imagine having that sort of athleticism. 2 dribbles.
We can only dream of that.
1.
It's not atypical for a center, ended up staying up. Oh! On Embiid, reverse dunk.
A little bit of transition. Looks like it's a little bit easy, but
Difficulty levels through the roof. Those are your Hoops highlights, thanks to Boost Mobile. Time to bring in former NBL MVP Derek Rucker, as we love to do each week. D, how are you going up there in Brisbane?
Very well. There's an extreme heat warning up here, Hammer. So, yeah, things are kind of hot.
We're going to talk about the Philadelphia 76ers and Tyrese Maxey in particular. 50 points the other day. It seems that he's doing everything he possibly can to keep Joel Embiid in Philly. D, is he your most improved in the NBA at the moment?
There's no doubt, Joe. And I think everyone saw this coming as soon as, you know, the usage rate could be increased due to the departure of James Harden. It was really going to open up Maxey's capabilities, and now we see what he's capable of doing. I had a conversation yesterday with our buddy Matty Lowe, and I said, teasingly but half seriously, that Maxey might be better than Tatum. He might be more reliable in the playoffs. I think his game can develop to be more reliable late in the playoffs than Tatum's is.
that heat is obviously getting to you, Derek Rucker, up there in Brisbane. I love Tyrese Maxey, and there's no doubt that he was always going to improve. As soon as they lost the beard, the system, the problem, he was always going to have his usage up. And now they're 8-1 with 28 points and 7 dimes per game. They've let him off the leash, and his quickness, D, to be able to get past defenders, not only in transition, but in the half court to be able to score. And now he's starting to learn the next layers of the defense, of where the rotations are coming from to be able to bring other people into the game. He is the most improved player, but he is not better than Tatum.
All right, let's talk the Chicago Bulls very quickly. They're 4-7 on the season. There are reports now that Zach LaVine and the organisation are in trade talks to potentially find some options. D, how do you feel about this one, given, I suppose, where we thought the Bulls would be and where they hope to be pushing for this season?
Yeah, you look at that roster, Joe, and I just thought even last season that they would have been further along. Now, look, they haven't had any love with Lonzo Ball going down. Like, he's a key piece of that lineup. He does so many things well for them. So for him not to be in there, really, he was a guy that brings everybody together. So as a team, they're suffering. But Zach LaVine still puts up serious numbers. That guy's an elite player, Shane. I guess there's a question mark on, can he produce with a good team? Because that's always a challenge. We see a lot of looters over time. But can you do it on a good team? Devin Booker had the same reputation early in his career. Zach LaVine obviously is a bit older than that now, but I'd love to see him go somewhere. I'd love to see him go to the Lakers. Get that other guy out of there, and let's get Zach LaVine in there and see what he can do.
So what other guy?
Shane, I know everybody loves this guy, and they're in love with him, and they think he's going to be that guy, but he isn't. Get Austin Reeves up out of there. Get LaVine in there. LaVine's a far better basketball player. And the Lakers are on a short horizon. They got to win now or next year. They don't have time to wait for Reeves to become a finals-level player.
Well, they're not going to trade just for Reeves, though.
No, they'll have to make it line up. There'll have to be a couple other pieces in there. But I still think the Lakers have enough if you add a Levine, that they could make some noise.
Reeves is a much better basketball player, but there's no doubt that Levine can have a much bigger impact. And I actually like him for the Lakers. I think he's the sort of player that they need, somebody that can go and have a big game and take the pressure off LeBron, take the pressure off Davis as well, has an athleticism to be able to go and do it. And he's probably one of the only teams that think they're a contender to be able to go to the next level. And I don't think it's a bad thing for Chicago, because I think DeRozan has probably been handcuffed a little bit with Levine there. I think he's got much bigger upside if he had more usage and they got some other pieces to the puzzle. And I think Chicago would love somebody like Reeves, especially if they can get some other pieces. They'd be a much better team for that trade.
Time will tell with that one, D. Love your work. Thank you so much. We'll chat to you next week.
Thank you, Jones. Thank you, Hammer.
On you, D.
We're pleased to say we have a special guest this week, Brisbane Bullets coach Justin Schuler joining us. Justin, thank you so much for your time. Now, I want to take you back. We had you on the show when you were just appointed coach of the club. It's probably an understatement to say that they were in disarray at the time. What were your sort of priorities and the main things that you wanted to bring in and change and implement in order to get them back on track?
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Good to be back. Yeah, I guess when I was canvassing kind of where the club was at, I could see that little changes were going to have big effects. And so that's kind of where we started, is just increase accountability on the day-to-day. We call them our habits, and making sure that we understood how we needed to operate as a club. So that was level one. But then piggyback straight onto that was get the right people in the building as well. And, through recruitment, we were very fortunate to be able to get the type of guys we wanted to come in that we knew could have an impact. One, play the way that we wanted to, which was definitely with a bit more of a defensive edge. But secondly, just being people that had been around winning and knew what that looked like on the day-to-day. So, they were the biggest changes we were able to make. And, we were at the start of the journey, but we're liking the foundation we're building.
Mate, congrats so far on a great start. I mean, I love the way you guys are playing and the way you've turned it around after really 5 or 6 years that the club has been in disarray, as Joe said. When you talk about personnel, can you talk to us about D-Mac and his influence on the group and how important he was coming with you? And if you had to take one thing from Dean Vickerman, what was the most important thing you took with you?
Yeah, like Mac was absolutely one of those key people I talk about that had experienced winning. He's obviously a legend of our game and someone that I could trust and knew what he was about. And, like the biggest thing he brings to us is, I'd let him be the point guard on the sideline. Like that's how I want him to look at the game for me. He's the greatest that's done it. So talk to me in that way, and just the direction and sort of the way he looks at the game has been a real asset for us in our point guard play, especially with Shannon out. We've had to throw Isaac White into the deep end there a little bit, and just that guidance has been invaluable. And his day-to-day, we know he's great with the workouts and what he's able to give the guys in that space. He's been a real asset to us. And I guess the thing with Dino is I was always trying to outwork him and I couldn't. And that's what I'm trying to instill here is that I'm going to be the first person in the building and the last one to leave, and just try and instill that, because his drive and accountability and how he went about his job was the thing that impressed me most. And I feel like if I can be that example here, then we're going to be in a pretty good shape.
Naturally, you inherit players. One in particular, Nathan Sobey, looks to be playing inspired basketball at the moment. What work have you done specifically with him to allow him to be playing so freely and essentially in the best shape of his career?
Yeah, I think his health has been a big part of it. Like he finally had an off season where he could just concentrate on that. It was a negative him missing out on national team duties, but a positive in that sense that he could really lock in on getting his body right. And I think when we started to look at what is his assets in the game, where's he the hardest to defend, I think we've been able to put him in a lot of positions of success for that. And that started with how we recruited around him. He still plays the point from time to time, but it's not his job. It's allowing him to be off ball and use the skill sets that he has. So, I think that's been a positive for him, in that he can just get back to being kind of the impact player that we all know he can be.
There's no doubt Sobey has been impressive this year, but I've been equally as impressed with some of your other recruits. You've gone after role players, guys like Norton and McDaniel, that have filled a valuable role. Some of the other teams have gone just with talent, but it's so important to have people that can play that role, want to play defence and complement your stars as well.
Absolutely, and we know in this league, if you're not top two defensively, it's tough to win championships. And so, when we looked at how we were building the roster, that was a key focus for us. And I was fortunate to win a championship with Sam McDaniel being that key stopper at Melbourne United, and he was a target straight away for us to come in here and do the same role. And I sat there for a long time, umming and ahhing whether we start him or not. And I don't think there's any coincidence that since we have been starting him, we've been able to get a little bit more consistency at that end of the floor. And then Nordo's just experience of winning and what those daily habits look like. He's exactly the sort of guy we needed to bring in here to be able to lead that in the locker room. A guy that's actually gone and won multiple times. It was an absolute key.
Rocco Zikarsky is one of the future stars of Australian basketball. Can you talk about what he's like behind the scenes, and from your point of view, Justin, what his ceiling could be?
Yeah, I've been asked this one a few times, and he can be the most fun and the most serious kid all at once. There's some guys 20 years older than him in the locker room, but he's still kind of our glue guy within the locker room, which is, I think, speaks volumes of who he is as a person, that he can connect with anyone in our group. Him and I had a really honest conversation yesterday about continue to challenge me. That's what I was asking of him, because I looked back at that Sydney game. I was like, no, I should have gone back to you. You did your job that day, and you deserve more opportunity. And where his growth right now is he's gone from, he's not a kid anymore. He's a professional athlete, and he's really starting to carry himself that way and demand more and more of me. So I'm kind of excited for this next quarter or the next period of what his growth will be, what he can become. I don't think you offer opportunities like this to athletes unless they have the opportunity to become generational. And I think he can be that. He's shown in his time that we've given him, he can already have an impact. It's just, can we get that consistently? And so as that evolves, as he gets older, I think he can be whatever he wants to be.
Well, speaking of consistency, Josh Bannon, he's been unbelievable since he first came in. Now he worked out in the NBA in the off-season. What sort of upsides he got? Can he play in the NBA? Can he play for the Boomers? And if so, what sort of player is he that's come before us?
Yeah, Josh is just an absolute worker, and I've said this a couple of times. He's still got some rust in the game from the injury, and so I think we're only going to see him continue to get more and more consistent with how he plays. He's an effort guy. For him to get to the NBA, his shot has to get a lot more consistent. But it's a work on for him, and it's something he's really focused on. The comparison's always been Nick Kay as that type of player, and I think Josh is going to be his own person at the end of the day. And I do see boomer potential in him for sure. And we just like the growth we've seen to this point. And again, another guy that we missed 5 games with him at the start of the year, and he comes into that starting lineup and just gives us that stability in that position that we've been craving. So excited for how the rest of the year goes for him.
We've obviously seen how far the Bullets have come since you've been in charge. You guys have positioned yourselves as a play-in team or a playoff team at the moment. Come the pointy end of the season, what would you consider a success?
Yeah, for us, we keep talking about, we don't hope to do well, we expect to. We genuinely believe we can be a playoff team, and we operate in that way every single day. And we sit here so frustrated and that we've let 3 games go this year that we felt we knew we were in winnable positions and we didn't take care of. And so we also know we're on a growth point, and that's what our journey is going to need to entail to get to where we want to go. But at the end of this year, if we haven't made playoffs, we're definitely going to have some disappointment about us, and that we knew there's controllables probably throughout the year that we could have taken care of. So that's our growth point right now. That's what we're trying to rectify. And we know this year was about building a foundation. We're comfortable with that. We've done that. We know that we've got the ability to build whatever we want on top now. but we're not satisfied with just competing. We're not satisfied with just being, a better team than what we have in the past. Like, the bar was low. We're not going to accept that. We've got high expectations on what we can do, and we'll continue to strive for them.
We love what you're doing so far this season. Best of luck for the rest of it and this weekend against the Wildcats. Justin Schuler, thanks for your time.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Good stuff, mate.
Yes, time to talk SuperCoach NBL with the birthday boy this week, Tom Hirsch. Tom, thank you so much for joining us on this very special day. Can you run us through the scores for round 7?
Yeah, sure. Well, I mean, for me, again, it wasn't an amazing week, but I had 2 players with zeros, Patrick Miller and Bobby Clipman, I decided to hold on. But I did still beat Hammer, so I'll take that as a victory for the week. My 184 to his 174. Top scorer for the round, though, across the league was Joe Luala-Chul with a massive 48. He's just in sensational form for Melbourne United right now. Unfortunately, United don't have any doubles coming up over the next few weeks, though. So an interesting one as to whether you want to invest in him right now or not. There might be some better options at centre at the moment.
Well, can you give us some advice, mate? You took care of us. Joe needs more advice than me, and Derek Rucker needs a little bit as well because he's dropped off. But what can we do to make our team better this week?
So there's 4 teams on the double this week: Cairns, New Zealand, Perth and Tasmania. So again, they're going to be your priority teams if you're looking to trade someone in or just to maximise that schedule. Next week, if we look ahead, Cairns and New Zealand have another double, and Adelaide and Brisbane as well. So again, if you're trying to plan some trades ahead, you might, if you don't have Josh Bannon, for example, from Brisbane, you might look at him. If you're looking for a point of difference, maybe an Isaac Humphries at centre from Adelaide could be someone you look at. But if you just wanted to make the smart conservative choices this week, probably sticking with New Zealand guys like Parker Jackson Cartwright. Anthony Lamb is someone who I brought in a couple of weeks ago. He's playing great. He led them with 37 points in round 7. And if you're looking at Cairns, Patrick Miller is expected to be back from injury this week, and he scored really well early on in the season. Keep an eye on Taj McCall. I'm not quite convinced you want to invest in him just yet. I think he's still kind of working his way back in the lineup. So maybe the more conservative choices from Cairns as a Sam Wardenberg or a Bull Quall potentially. And then also Will McDowell-White, another guy who started to play a bit better of late, but again, a hefty price tag for what he's been producing. So probably someone to keep an eye on for another week or so just before you deploy him. But Cairns and New Zealand still have the best schedules coming up for the next little while.
So some relatively sort of well-known big names there. What about any cheeky pickups or guys to be looking out for?
Yeah, there's a couple that I'm considering. Another one from New Zealand is Mango Matiang, a guy who kind of fell out of favour earlier in the season with New Zealand, but his form's really ramped up the last couple of weeks. He's averaging over 30 SuperCoach points over his last 3 rounds, and the price tag's pretty favourable at $185,000, so that's someone to consider. Aaron Baines, again, someone who's not been producing, but there's some rumours around a Tyrell Harrison injury. If Harrison's out and Baines gets a heavier workload, then he could potentially be someone to consider. And then if you're looking for a really sneaky choice, someone that I'm really considering bringing in as a cheaper option this week is AJ Johnson in Illawarra. He's not been playing much at all, but I just wonder with the coaching change with the Hawks, whether Justin Tatum might look to deploy the next star a bit more and give him a bit more of a run and development. So one to keep an eye on, but if you're looking for a really cheap option or a way to save money to deploy elsewhere, he could be someone to look to trade in this week.
Oh, I quite like that tip, AJ Johnson.
That's a good little one.
We're getting on to that. Tom, thank you so much again. Happy birthday. Enjoy the rest of the day with the family, and we'll chat to you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers, buddy.
That is all we've got time for this week. As always, thanks to Code Sports, Boost, Mobile and the Throwback Store. Hammer?
Great to have you back, Jojo.
It's been fun.
Yep, always. Better show when you're on.
Yep, good show this week. Looking forward to seeing you guys again next time.
This is a co-production by News Corp Australia and Closer Sports.